Hi everyone. I hope you can see me and hear me, and I hope we can start now. Right? Uh, can you all see me and hear me? Just send me a message to say yes if you can see me and hear me. Super. So welcome to Nanaska initial introduction to OCS. Mr. Mark is here. Mr. Mark will take you through into more details. However, uh, so basically within if you look at the SEMA structure, there is operational level, management level, and strategic level. Each of those levels, like operational, management, strategic, there are three theory papers available and one case study. Now, these three theory papers at the operational level is P1, E1, F1. Management level, we call it E2, P2, F2. Strategic level, we call it E3, P3, F3. Each level, there is a case study, operational level case study, management level case study, and strategic level case study. Here we are with you guys for the operational level case study to ensure that you pass the operational level case study in Feb 2023 and complete, right? Those who are on the FLP path, you don't need to do the three OTQ papers, but a self-assessment. Trust me, self-assessment is self-assessment, not an exam. I'm sure you should be able to do it fast, but if you struggle, you let me know. We will try to help you with. As far as operational level case study is concerned, we have structured the program in a way where you will find it easier to learn because first two steps are what we call KYP and KYI, know your pre-scene and know your industry. So what is know your pre-scene? Because as far as operational level case study is concerned, there's a pre-scene given about 6 to 8 weeks before. The pre-scene is about 25 pages long. Pre-scene has all the details that you got to know about that particular organization. Once you study about that organization, you go to the exam having a very good knowledge about organization, of that organization. When you go to the exam, all the exam questions will be based on that particular organization. So it's like real world. I mean, you work for a company, you go to office every day, therefore you know so much of details about the company. Next Monday, when you go in the same company, they will give slightly a different situation. No? Next Monday, what will happen at office, you can't predict it before. So therefore, the case study is to see how well you react in the real world. So stimulation available. So that is why that pre-scene is very critical. You need to go through that pre-scene fairly well to understand. Now we at Nanaska, we don't want you to go through it entirely. Instead, we have done a KYP, know your pre-scene. It's a nice PowerPoint presentation for you to understand the pre-scene. You can't understand the company unless you know the industry very well. Unless you know how the industry works, you can't understand the organization. Therefore, we have the second step called KYI, know your industry as well. So you don't need to Google about the industry on your own. We will do the research and we will submit the final findings of the research for you to go through. So that is how we start KYP, KYI. Right, so these are two PowerPoint presentations. There are videos that is done by myself, done by Mr. Mark for you to go through. When you register tomorrow, you can start watching the videos on the KYP. That's something that you should do at the beginning itself. There are two things you should do. One is watch the videos on the KYP. Other one is to look at what your WPM is, very critical factor. WPM. How many words you can type for each minute, WPM, words per minute. You should try to see what your WPM is. Because it's a 3-hour online paper. And in the 3-hour online paper, you get 4 emails from your boss. Those 4 are the 4 different sections of the question papers. And you need to reply to the email. Your reply is the answer. So it's an online paper entirely available. Therefore, your typing speed is critical. So therefore, what we want you to do is first, watch the videos on KYP and look at what your WPM is. So type 20 minutes a day for 4 days. Type 20 minutes a day for 4 days. Type something you know very well. Type the pre-scene. So you can't go wrong. You will get to know the pre-scene as well. Now, it can't be something that you think think it over, and type. No, something that you know you start type. We want to see what your WPM is. If your WPM is below 20, we need to help you to improve. If your WPM is above 30, we'll give you a different strategy to pass. If your WPM is low, we'll give you a different strategy. So therefore, you should look at what your WPM is as well. Don't forget, as you are aware, paper is entirely an online paper, 3-hour paper, 4 different sections. Each section is for 45 minutes. Each section is for 45 minutes. Right. So once you do KYP and KYI, then we have 3 other steps called deep dive and the ground rules. So ground rules is where we will teach you what are the things you should be doing on the exam day, what are the things you should not be doing on the exam day. That you can wait till then. I'm not trying to give a brief now. Deep dive is in-depth analysis of the précis. In-depth analysis of the précis. So after you do the KYP, only that can be done, obviously, because I think deep dive is the next step of the KYP. Right? Stage number 5 is called co-activities. That's the beauty of it. In CIMA, there are 4 co-activities available. Exam day questions will be based on those co-activities. Some of you all have not done E1, P1 and F1. Don't worry. Section number 6 of ours is called Refresh Theory, where we will refresh you on E1, P1, F1. We'll go through the entire syllabus, nothing to worry. So then the section number 7 is mock number 1. Don't forget, section number 7 is not coming after we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Section number 7 will start from the second week itself. This not that we will finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, go to 7. Section number 7 is a practice mock paper. Paper and the answer is given for you to see what kind of questions will be there on the exam day. Section number 8 is very critical, which is what we call the reality, where we will give you 6 mock papers or 7 mock papers for you to do under exam conditions, And each mock paper will give you the personal feedback. So nothing to worry. We can work together and ensure that you get very high marks, right? So Mr. Mark will explain to you a lot of further details, but he had amazing results in last 2 sessions where the results were out. Last session results were not out. A lot of people got quite a good grade mark. So I'm sure we can have the same performance this time as well. But these are overview of the program, right? So since I've been talking for about 7-8 minutes, are you clear? Is everything clear what I said? Are you clear? If it is clear, can you say clear, clear, clear? Oh, all good, something like that. So then I understand that you got it clear. Right? So this is the program available. Now in CIMA, operational level case study, you need to have a solid theoretical background as well. Without a doubt, you need to have a solid theoretical background. However, a lot of questions will be practical questions that are available. So you should have a proper balance. When you come to strategic level, no theoretical question. All the questions will be practical. At the operational level, it's important for you to have the theoretical background stronger, because otherwise there is nothing left when you go to the managerial and strategy. So therefore, there will be certain theoretical level questions as well, which we need to be careful, which we need to be aware. So therefore, that is something that we should not forget. So I think we can start and go ahead. So today we don't take a lot of time. Maybe we'll take 1 hour and 10 minutes just to give a full update. Mr. Mark, will you take over?
Yeah. Am I audible and visible?
Yeah, looks like for me, yes.
Right. Hope it's the same for the rest of you as well. Right.
Others, can you all hear Mr. Mark? Yes, go ahead.
Right. So welcome back again to Nanaska for OCS for the Feb 23 session. Right. So you had a brief overview from Mr. Channa Gunawardana. So what we will do is basically we'll go a little bit in detail onto the areas, the 7-8 areas which we discussed. and see what is the expectation from basically your end. How are we going to go around this course for the coming, basically we have about 7 weeks for the exam. So any idea of your exam dates, guys? So you'll be sitting for the February window of 2023, the first case study window for the next year. So any idea of the exam dates? So your exams will be on the 6th to 8th of February, right? Your exams will be on the 6th to 8th of February, meaning how many weeks do we have? How many weeks do we have? How many weeks do we have, guys?
Same chat box, okay?
Yes, right. Okay, so we have a very limited amount of time. We have about 7 weeks left, right, for our case study. So we are into the latter part of the year as well. So we might miss a few sessions here and there. So therefore, it's going to be quite tight, right? It's going to be quite tight. But let's see how we're going to go about these 7 weeks. What is going to be our strategy? What is going to be our action plan? And what is the expectation from your end? So if I can have a quick intro from yourselves, saying whether you're from OTQ or FLP. If you're from OTQ, type OTQ. If you're from FLP, you can type FLP. Can I have a quick update from all the attendees here with regards to that before I start proceedings? Okay. OTQ, FLP, right? Majority coming from FLP. Good. Others? What about the rest of you? Good. So then we have a majority coming from the FLP route, right? So there's nothing to worry, guys, right? So you guys will get, you have gone through E1, F1, P1. So have you all completed your E1, F1, P1 modules in the FLP platform, or are you all yet to complete it? Have you all completed your E1, P1, F1 modules in the FLP platform, or is it still pending? What is the status of that? What is the status of that? Still doing okay. So try your level best, guys. So next week, next Sunday, it's the 25th, so we won't have any classes, right? So I will give you this week for you guys. Try and complete your FLP modules E1, P1, F1, right? So better if you have at least 5 to 6 weeks only for the case study to focus on. So that is number one, right? What is number one? Before you step into the case study, I want you to complete all the 3 modules in the FLP platform, E1, P1, F1, and then we will switch to the case study, right? And then we will switch to the case study. So because we will be meeting again, basically our first session will be the 1st of January, right? Our first session will be on the 1st of January. So therefore, prior to that, right? Prior to that, make sure you complete all your FLP modules. Prior to that, make sure you complete all your FLP modules. That is number one. It's very critical, right? So if I give you a brief overview about the operational level case study, right? If I give you a brief overview about the operational case study, right? So your OCS, you will have 4 sections in your exam paper, which each section having a minimum of 2 tasks. Having a minimum of 2 tasks. Each section will have a minimum of 2 tasks, right? So you might have, sometimes there are 3, sometimes there are 2, right? So it will be between 2 and 3. The number of tasks will be between 2 and 3. So how long will you get? You will get only 3 hours. You will get only 3 hours to answer your OCS question paper. It's online, right? So that's why Mr. Channa highlighted on the importance of WPM, words per minute. So I'm assigning you some work for this week, right? So that you guys are more familiar when we meet again on the first after you register with us, right? When we truly step down into the case study and kick off the sessions, right? So your words per minute is critical, right? Words per minute is critical. So I know what we normally agree in class is to have a minimum of 30 to 35. This is the minimum. A minimum of 30 to 35 words per minute, right? So higher the better for you, right? Higher the better for you, right? Along with this, right? Number two, your pre-scene read count. This is another aspect which I pay a little bit more attention on, right? So you've got to at least read the pre-scene 15 to 20 times before your exam, right? This is on a minimum scale. On a minimum scale, you've got to read your pre-scene 15 to 20 times before your exam day. Right now, that is another critical aspect alongside your WPM, alongside your words per minute. Why? The more knowledge you have on the pre-scene, it makes it easier to answer questions. It makes it easier to relate what the examiner is testing on the exam day to the pre-scene. Okay, what is he actually referring to? Right? Where do I find this thing in the pre-scene? On the exam day, are you going to open it, go and search for it, spend time there? No, because you have a very limited amount of time, 3 hours for 4 sections on your exam day, which is not an easy task, right? So therefore, if you put the foundation right, so for OCS, I normally say the foundation is how many times you read your pre-scene, your words per minute, and number three, your refresh theory. Refresh theory is your understanding, your knowledge on P1, F1, E1. Now, these three are the three blocks, I would call the three blocks that ought to be there in your foundation for you to pass your case study. If these three blocks are firm, you have nothing to worry about passing your case study. About passing your case study. So the first two are totally within your control, words per minute and the pre-scene read count. These two blocks of the foundation are totally within your control, right? This also maybe 70% within your control, 30% we will add value by having separate sessions for E1, P1, F1. By having separate sessions for E1, P1, F1 to quickly, it will not be detailed sessions, it will be a glance through the theory. So therefore, better start now itself. You got to start working on your foundation now itself, because you have time, right? You have a good 2 weeks before we meet again. So start working on your foundation, put it right, right? Put it right. So if you put your foundation right, there's nothing to worry. It's just a very smooth sail over the next 6 to 7 weeks. Over the next 6 to 7 weeks, right? So this is the foundation you've got to put in your, if you are to succeed in your OCS, right? The next part of it. So this is part number one, right? I would call it the prerequisites or your foundation for OCS, or your foundation for OCS. Words per minute, pre-scene read count, and the knowledge of the theory, E1, P1, F1, the three subjects. The three subjects. Right, you will also get three separate documents which have briefed the three subjects into one PowerPoint, right? So you can go through that as well, right? So when you register with us, you will get three documents, one for P1, one for F1, one for E1, that will have all the syllabus content in a very brief way, right? If you can go through it, understand and study it, even that is enough for your theoretical knowledge. Just that in cases like P1 and F1, you've got to do a little bit of practice questions, which is also included in the PowerPoint. There are some examples for you to familiarize yourselves with the theory. Now that is part number one. Any questions on part one? Any questions on the foundation? Are we clear? If you are clear, you can tell me you're clear. If you have any clarifications, you can ask. Before I move on, is everything clear, guys? The rest of you? Okay, others? Quickly, if you can respond. We've got to interact well, right? Good. So then that is the first part of your OCS for you to succeed. Now, what is part number two? Right? What is part number two? So in part number two, what you've got to focus, number one priority are your mocks. Well, what is a mock paper? Mock paper is very similar to your exam paper, which we give you beforehand for you to practice, for you to familiarize yourselves. For you to practice, for you to familiarize yourselves. Now here we will have about 10 mock papers, right? Mock number 1, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now the challenge is to complete all these 10 mocks before your exam day. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. The challenge is to complete all these 10 mock papers before your exam day. Now mock paper 1 we will most probably discuss on the 1st of January. We'll try to. If not, we'll have a separate session for that, right? Mock number 1 you don't have to do it. I will take you through mock paper 1. We will give you the paper and the answer, and we will go through it. How do you approach a mock paper? How do you identify the exam requirement? How do you understand, extract the question, extract the examiner's requirement, and address it accordingly? So we will look at how do you approach an exam paper, how do you structure your answer, what has to be the structure of your answer. Should it be paragraphs? Should it be points? Should it be sentences? We will discuss in detail the presentation format of your answer on the exam day. Now, that format has to be continued across all these 10 mocks. Across all these 10 mocks. Right? The format for answering, the structure we agree here on mock paper 1 has to be continued throughout up until mock paper 10. Up until mock paper 10. Right? So mock 2 to 10, these will be graded. You will get marks for this. You do the paper on our exam engine, submit it, you get your marks. It's not instant. We take about 2-3 days. There is a backend team who is supporting on the marking. So they will get back to you with the marks within a span of 2 to 3 days. Right? So therefore, you've got to understand the time frames and complete mocks very fast, because we have a very limited amount of time. So ideally what I tell is to complete 2 mocks per week. 2 mocks per week. Right? Here we have 1. Here we have 2, 3, 4. Right? And then on the exam week, you do the last mock. On the exam week, you do the last mock. Right? So your exam week is February 8 to 10th. That is the second week of February. That is the second week of February. So before that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. So from the week starting Jan 8th, we need to start. So the week starting Jan 8th will be this, where you have to complete mock 2 and 3. Where you have to complete mock 2 and 3. Right. So you've got to have a plan, right? Have 4 weeks. For each week, I have to complete 2 mocks. You have to complete 2 mocks. It's not going to work otherwise. Right? So having laid your foundation, in the next phase of making sure you pass, mocks will be the number one priority. Mocks will be the number one priority. Right? So remember, when it comes to your exam, right? When it comes to your exam, 70% of it will be based on your theory. 70% of your paper will be based on theory. 30% will be on applications, right? And others, right? So 70 to 80%, 70 to 75% very easily will be based on theory. So what is your theory? E1, F1, P1. So that is why I said this will be a foundation. This will be the foundation for you to pass your OCS. That's why I said that. That's why I said that, because 80%, 70 to 75% of your paper is coming from your theory. If you know the theory, it's very simple. You apply it into the case study, write the answer. Very simple. So therefore, please treat your E1, F1, P1 as critical, as very important aspects where you've got to familiarize yourselves before you embark into the mock papers, before you start doing the mock papers. So we will have refresh theory sessions on weekday evenings, right? Our normal usual session is on Sunday 6:30 9:30, but we will have refresh theory sessions as additional sessions on weekday evenings. On the first also, I'm trying to take half and then give the rest half for refresh theory for E1. We'll see how it works. If not, right, our normal sessions weekday evening sessions will be from 8 to 10 p.m, 7:30 9:30, or 8:30 10:30, somewhere there, depending on the power cut schedules, so on and so forth, right? So our weekday evening schedules will be this. Most probably there'll be 1 day per week in the first 3 weeks. The last, maybe the final 2 weeks, we will have about 2 weekday sessions, right, to make sure we cover all the mocks in class. We review, discuss, and cover all the mocks in class, right? So that is the plan for your mocks. This is what I put as very, very important to pass the exam. Very, very important to pass. Very, very important to pass. After having laid your foundation right. After having laid your foundation right. Right? So you will attempt 2 mock papers per week. Send it to us. We will send it to you back with the feedback, with the marks, right? And then for about 3 to 4 mocks, you will have a dedicated one-to-one session with our team as to where you have to improve, right? We will have about, for 3 to 4 mock papers, we will have one-to-one sessions. We will have one-to-one sessions where you are assigned with a particular tutor. He or she will, I will also be in the respective group. He or she will discuss with you what are your weaknesses, what do you have to improve before you answer the next mock, what are your weaknesses, right? How can your, if you have written a good answer, how can that be converted to a prize winning answer? Those aspects will be discussed there. So as you go along this mock 2 to 10, it has to be a learning exercise. It has to be a learning exercise. You have to show signs of what? Continuous improvement. You have to show signs of continuous improvement. Now, what is continuous improvement? From mock 2, I don't expect high marks for mock 2. That's where you get familiarized, right? Maybe you get 50 marks for mock 2. Mock 3, can you score anything below 50? No, if you had done it properly, if you had applied the learnings from mock 2 into mock 3, you can't score anything below 50. It has to be maybe, let's say, 55. Mock 4. Now you have done 2 mocks. You have experience for 2 mocks. You've done your learnings. You've reviewed yourself. Mock 4, maybe you get about 58, 60. Mock 5, you get about 62. Mock 6, you get about 65. Likewise, it has to be a continuous improvement exercise. Remember this. If you do it properly, if you take it as a learning exercise, right, and do it properly, remember, you will definitely see the results. You will definitely see the results. So that is what will lead you to a high mark in your exam. So I'm telling this 50, 60, 70 out of 100, right? Your exam score will be out of 150. So you have to score at least 80 marks to pass, right? Out of 150, you have to score at least 80 to pass. So our mock papers are graded out of 100. So how much is 80 out of 150? Can someone do the maths quickly? How much is 80 out of 150? 50? 3%. Right? So our mock papers, we take 55% as the pass mark. 55% as the pass mark in mock papers. Right? 55% will be the pass mark in the mock papers. So therefore, you've got to commit a lot, right? You've got to commit a lot if you are to pass the exam. If you are to pass the exam. Is that clear to all of you? So after having laid your foundation, the next step for you to succeed is your mocks. So we will give you 10 mocks. First mock we will discuss in class. Even the others, after you attempt it, we will discuss in class, which is why we have the additional weekday sessions, right? For refresh theory and for mock discussions, right? So from mock 2 to 10, it will be graded. You will get the marks, right? You will get the model answer. You can review, see where you have to improve. You will have one-to-one sessions for about 3 to 4 mocks, right? To further streamline your learning exercise. And remember, throughout the journey of 8 mocks, you got to show signs of recovery. You've got to show signs of continuous improvement. Better marks on this mock rather than the previous mock, right? And then also remember your paper structure, 70% of it will be theory. 70% of it will be theory. Now, this is where you will go wrong if you had not laid your foundation right. If you had not laid your foundation right, that is where you will go wrong. So make sure you don't do that blunder, right? Make sure you don't do that blunder, because E1, P1, F1 are very critical for you to pass the exam. We will, of course, tell, okay, these and these are the areas you've got to focus more. Of course, we will tell you. But in addition, it's your responsibility to put some effort, right, over the next 2 weeks where you have a lot of time, right? Over the next 2 weeks, put some effort, start building up, start laying your foundation, start laying your foundation. And then it's just a matter of sailing through, having laid your foundation right when we do the mocks from 2 to 10, right? So 10 mocks, it's not easy, right? I will be definitely pushing you guys. There will be a backend team who will be following up with you whether you complete the mocks on time, right? So therefore, don't think you can escape from this, right? It will be a very thorough follow up, right? You've got to stick to this. You've got to stick to this somehow or the other. You've got to stick to this, because I mean, no point, right? If you are unable to do at least 8 to 9 mocks, you're going to find it difficult. Let's say 7 to 8 mocks, you're going to definitely find it difficult in the exam, right? Unless you attempt 7 to 8 mocks, familiarize yourselves, do it in the exam engine, in an environment by timing it for 3 hours. Unless you do it for 7 or 8 papers, you're going to struggle in the exam. Trust me, you're going to struggle. So don't let that happen. That's why I'm telling you, I'm stressing so much on this point, right? That's why there will be a thorough follow up on this, right? For you to make sure the learning exercise happens. You are familiarized with the exam, you are familiarized with questions, so that in the exam you will see it as just another mock paper. If you do all these 10 properly, exam will be just another mock paper for you. Trust me, that will be the same, right? So therefore, that is the expectation from you guys with regards to mock papers. So this will be one of the core activities of our course. So therefore, there will be a strict follow up, right? You've got to commit to 2 mocks per week, unless otherwise we are going to fail in this. So is everybody clear on the approach we are going to take for mock papers? Any questions to be asked from this? Clear or not clear? If you can put a note on the chat box, that would be fine. Good, right? So we've got to commit to this. Right, then in part 2, we have few other aspects. In addition to your mocks, you will have an industry analysis, which Chandra sir mentioned as KYI, know your industry. So here it's a lengthy document, right? Let me quickly glance you through. Right, so this is your know your industry document, what you see on the screen, right? So here our pre-scene, I'm sure you must have read it, right? The OCS pre-scene. Let me share it on the chat box as well. Yeah, I've just shared the pre-scene, the case study on the chat box. You can download it from there. So once you register with us, guys, you will get access to a fully fledged LMS where we upload the daily recordings, the daily documents, all the contents of the course will be uploaded there, and you will basically get access to all the documents, right? Can we access KYP? Of course, after you register, we need about 3 to 4 days to assign you to the LMS. Maybe once that process is done, Janit, you will definitely get access, right? Right, so here, the KYI, we basically look at, the industrial aspects. We are into outdoor grills. Who are our competitors? We also have looked at real world company that is like us, to give you some sense of flavor, some sense of taste, how the organization operates. What is their website? What is their company profile? How do they market the products? What are their sales strategies? What is their distribution models? So we've looked at a real world company very similar to Fireworks, which is our case study, right? Fireworks is our case, right? A company operating in the outdoor grill industry. So we've looked at a real world company who is very similar to Fireworks. So you can go search their go to their social media site, see what sort of promotions they do, how they market the products, go to their website, try to do a purchase, right? Maybe you can abandon your cart later, try to do a purchase, see how the customer experience is. In addition to that, we've analyzed our products. What are the new trending products which we don't manufacture, which is good for us to grow in terms of the future, like smart grills, right? Then the news about the grills market, the future of grilling, where do we see the market growing, things like that. So from the basics of starting with what is a grill, to trends in the industry, challenges in the industry, competitors, the products, right? How big data can be brought into the industry, how big data is applied already in the industry, right? It's a very detailed document in terms of the industrial aspects, the history and things, of course, just for your reference to glance through, nothing to study there, right? So apart from that, we've looked at the best BBQ grill brands, things like that. So it's a very comprehensive document here. Know your industry. You know your industry. So you know your industry, you don't have to study it. You just go through it, right? Take some examples, write it in your answer. That's the expectation, right? Remember, I always say this, it may not have to be accurate. You use some technical jargon, you use some competitor names, right? Say, okay, look here, these people are applying the same strategy, so why not Fireworks? Why not we apply it? Right? So that's where you get value added to your answer. That's where your answer is differentiated from the others, right? So the industry analysis is that. So don't take it as a worry. It's a very simple document. You don't have to study it. You just have to go through it, read it about 3 4 times before the exam, and then just get some ideas. Okay, how does the industry operate? That gives you more confidence going into the exam. That gives you more confidence when you're writing answers. You write more practical answers which are in line with the industry accepted standards and practices. That's the expectation. Not to study, not to memorize, nothing. No, there's nothing to study in KYL. It's just that for your additional knowledge, for you to enhance knowledge on the industry, it is there to get some examples, write it in the answer wherever possible, wherever possible, right? Then of course you have, we do the pre-scene analysis starting from next our the first day. The pre-scene analysis we will do for about 2 weeks, right? From the first page to the last page, we will be going through the entire pre-scene, discussing the scenarios, discussing, okay, what could happen, how could the examiner turn this to an exam question, what are the relevant E1 F1 P1 areas that could be tested from this. It's an in-depth analysis, right? So this is given to you in a written format as deep dive. So we discussed this in class. The same thing will be given to you in a much enhanced way, everything written, known as deep dive. So when you come on your first day, have a copy of your pre-scene with you, have a hard copy of your pre-scene with you, so that you have space to scribble and write down and take down additional notes where we discuss things like that. So don't forget to bring a hard copy of your pre-scene to the first session, right? So that you take down whatever the notes, the areas we discuss, right? Scribble it down. So by the end of our course, you will have a very comprehensive pre-scene with you, with all the scenarios and areas which we have discussed in class. So that is another critical aspect, the pre-scene analysis. In addition to this, we give you another financial mock and call something called a power mock. Financial mock is totally on your F1. We give the paper and the answer both for you to study, right? From accounting standards, from IAS 2, IAS 16, IFRS 16, IAS 10, events after reporting, IAS 36, impairment, all the relevant standards to you will be tested there. You've got to read the question, take the model answer, and see how it should be addressed. Then the power mock will be from all three E1, F1, P1. Will be from all three E1, F1, and P1. Right? General theoretical questions, how will you bring down the answer points? How will you bring down the answer points? Right? And finally, you have your possible issues. Now, this is what we think the examiner will ask from you at the exam. So, what the examiner will ask you at the exam are covered in two areas. One in your mocks, number two in your possible issues. So, remember what the objective of mocks and possible issues is: to predict examiner. Don't worry, so far we have been very successful in getting about 90 to 95% of what the examiner is asking is discussed in class. How is that done? By the mock papers and the possible issues. So that's why I'm stressing quite a lot on your mock papers. That's why I'm stressing quite a lot on your mock paper. So if you speak to our past students, they will clearly tell you, right? We have been very successful in predicting about 95% or more than that of what the examiner asks on the exam day. Therefore, don't worry about it. It's just that you've got to commit yourself to go through these documents and do the mocks as assigned to you. So how are we going to predict the examiner? By way of possible issues, by way of mock papers. 10 mock papers, very difficult for the examiner to ask something beyond that, right? Because we are discussing 10 mock papers, right? Very difficult for you to get something out of what we have not discussed in class. At least we would have covered it by way of possible issues or in our pre-scene analysis. Very difficult to come for the examiner to test something out of what we have already discussed in the class during the course. So don't worry about it. It's just that you've got to give your proper commitment to completing these documents, completing the tasks assigned to you on a weekly basis. So on a weekly basis, I will assign a to-do list. Okay, this week, this is what you've got to do. Right? So before we meet again on the first, what you've got to do, I will be giving it to you end of the session, maybe in another 15-20 minutes time. Right? So today it's an introductory session, right? So we'll be officially starting on the first. Right? So when you guys register with us, you will get access to all of these documents and the LMS platform, right? So you've got to start working now itself. I told you, lay a foundation within the 2 weeks you have. So from January, we are ready to sail. Maybe from the third week of January, we'll have to take off. It will be a rapid pace. So for you to catch up with that pace, you've got to have set your foundation right, and then you got to have started this or initiated the sail so that it will be smooth up until the second week of February. Up until the second week of February. Now that is our strategy, that is our plan, that is the course of action you've got to adhere to during the 7 to 8 weeks we will be meeting over the next 2 months, or the next 1.5 months, right? So these 5 aspects are going to define, right, on top of your foundation, right, whether you're going to see a pass or a fail on your roof, right? You lay a foundation, right? Then on the foundation you build on these 5 bricks of stone. On top of it, on the roof, you will have a display whether it's pass or fail, maybe when you get your marks somewhere towards the end of March. So if you had laid the foundation right, if you had done the building properly with these 5 blocks, remember, it's always going to be a pass. It's always going to be a pass. So it all boils down to the effort you put in, to the commitment you put in, to the dedication you put in. Trust me, that's going to be the result. That's going to be the result. Right? So now you've got to visualize. The foundation will be the 3 aspects: the praising read count, words per minute, and your knowledge on the refresh theory. So if you have those 3 as a solid base, on top of it, you have 5 more blocks: the mock papers, the pre-scene analysis, the industry analysis, the F1 mock and the power mock, and the possible issues. So those 5 blocks, you've got to build it on top of the base you are going to lay, and on the top of it, you will see a pass or a fail when you get your marks. When you get your marks, right? So that has to be our action plan. That is our course of action. That is going to be the strategy over the next 7 to 8 weeks. So I've been talking quite a lot. Any questions? Are we all clear on the strategy, on the course of action we've got to take? Is everybody clear? Is everybody clear, guys? Good. What about the others? The rest of you? Good. So don't forget that, right? To sum it up, right? This is where your base has to be strong, right? I'll divide this into 3. Your pre-scene reading. What was the minimum standard I gave you? 15 to 20 times before the exam. Then your WPM, a minimum of 30 to 35. Then your theory knowledge, which is E1, F1, and P1, right? On top of this, you have the 5 blocks. The main one are your mocks, right? 1 to 10, where you do a comprehensive learning exercise over the period. You show signs of continuous improvement because you will be marked for 9 mocks, and then you will have 1-to-1 sessions for about 4 mocks, right? And then you've got to understand your pre-scene analysis, right? Then you've got to understand your industry analysis, right? Then you've got to understand and complete your F1 mock and the power mock. And finally, the possible issues, right? And then you will see whether that's going to lead you into a destination where you will see a pass. This is, in a nutshell, this is what I've been speaking about over the last maybe 30 to 40 minutes, right? Over the last 30 to 40 minutes, right? I don't mind even if you take this down. This is our action plan. Right? Action plan for OCS. This is our action plan for OCS, right? So mocks, you've got to do 2 per week if we are to achieve the target. Right? So here you will do your exam on the 8th to 10th February, one of these 3 dates, right? And ultimately, you should, we all hope to see the pass if you had committed properly to all these tasks. Clear? Right? So this is the expectation from you. So we will go on a rapid journey. It's going to be fast because we have a very limited amount of time. You put out this week and next week. How many weeks do we have? First week of Jan, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have barely about 6 weeks for all these. Now that is the interesting equation. We have barely 6 weeks to do all these things, right? So therefore, don't take it easy, right? If you put in the effort during the first 3 to 4 weeks, you can take it easy over the next 2 weeks, over the last 2 weeks. Don't worry. So in the first 4 weeks, I require that commitment and the dedication. You've got to come for sessions, right? In case you are unable to, please go through the recordings, right? Of course, you've got to thoroughly revise, right? That's what I've highlighted here. Because as I told you, right, I just gave you a simple pie chart. 70 to 75% will be on your theory, whereas 25 to 30% only will be your applications and things like that. So 70 to 75% will be your theory. So you've got to thoroughly revise your E1, F1, P1. There's no argument about it, no doubt about it. Even if you go through the past, okay, I forgot to add the past papers here. Let me add the past papers also. All right, to this I will add the past papers. Right? Maybe you take one set of past papers or 1 or 2 sets of past papers. You don't have to know the case study. Just look at the questions, look at the answers, see how it goes. right? The examiner's answers are very comprehensive. We don't have to stick to that standard, but you can take something out of it, right? So this is our whole action plan for OCS, right? Whole action plan for OCS, right? You lay a foundation right, put on the 5 blocks properly, and then lay it on, and then lay it on, right? Okay. So I have shared the pre-scene with you on the chat box. You can download it. So this is, don't worry, I'm not going to start teaching, right? I'll just give you a quick overview before we wind up. So this is our company, right? Fireworks, right? So what is fireworks? Before we go on to fireworks, we've got to understand what is my role, what is your role, right? You are a finance officer working in the finance department, involved in the preparation of MA, management accounting, information to managers with decision making, preparation of financial statements, queries regarding financial reporting and other financial matters, right? So these two coming from your P1 and E1, and the last two coming from your F1. Preparation of management accounting information. So what does this include? You may have to interpret variance analysis, right? I'm just giving you some examples, right? You might have to do a not do examiner will do a linear programming graph for you. You have to interpret it, say, okay, what is the decision we ought to make, what is the optimum product mix we've got to manufacture so that our contribution is maximized, right? Then maybe you've got to do some budgeting, right? Look at our current budgeting framework, look at the pros and cons. If there are a lot of flaws in the current budgeting framework, okay, to which budgeting framework, to which budgeting system can we switch to? In the system we are switching, let's say we are doing incremental budgeting now, we got to switch to activity based budgeting, switch to zero based budgeting. Is it really worthwhile, or are we going to go for a beyond budgeting approach where we put a mix of all things like rolling budgets, external observable benchmarks, internal targets, comprehensive performance measures, put everything and go for a beyond budgeting framework? So those are things the examiner will ask you. Then most importantly, your costing. What is our current costing system? If you go through the pre-scene, you will see we are using traditional absorption costing. If we are to switch to overcome the disadvantages, okay, what is the method available? Obviously, we can switch to activity-based costing. So what are the implications of switching to ABC from traditional absorption? What are the changes required within the organization to facilitate adoption of ABC? Things like that, right? Then you've got to come up with, let's say if it's even under decision making, you've got to come up with KPIs for sales staff, KPIs for production staff, KPIs for marketing, KPIs for distribution staff, right? KPIs for your HR, right? KPIs for any new division you're going to initiate. Let's say a new business development function you're going to start newly in fireworks. What are the KPIs we're going to set, right? Then e-commerce aspects, right? What are the e-commerce activities we could start, from social media marketing to digital marketing to search engine optimizations to all of that, right? If we have a website, how can we make the website more user friendly? Sorry. What are the changes required in the user interface? Things like that. And here I forgot about risk, right? If the organization is risk seeking, what is the decision? If the organization is risk neutral, what is the decision? If it's risk averse, what is the decision? So you've got to understand your risk, right? Then under risk, your decision trees, right? Expected values, probabilities. These are few things that the examiner could give you. Remember, you won't have calculations in the exam. There is no calculation, very minimal, maybe 5 to 10% you will have, or let's say 5%. Very minimal calculations. The examiner will do all the calculations for you. What you have to do is what? What should you do? what is expected from you is interpretation. What is expected from you is interpretation, right? What does this variance mean, right? How will you interpret the linear programming chart and tell which product mix we've got to manufacture, right? Things like that. So this is what is your more what you get mostly to comment, to interpret, right? To say what is the decision, right? If it's different risk attitudes to decision making, what will each attitude take, right? Supplier selections, which supplier is good to go, right? So under F1, you will have to know your accounting standards. So what are the accounting standards you've got to be aware of? What are the accounting standards you've got to be aware of? IAS 2, right? IAS 10, IAS 16, IAS 36, IFRS 16. Did I miss any? IAS 7 you have, but that's nothing much. Yeah. So what is IAS 2? What is IAS 2? What does IAS 2 talk about? What does IAS 2 talk about? Yes? No one knows? A very simple standard. What does IAS 2 talk about? Let's see. Very good. It talks about inventory. You've got to value inventory at the lower of cost or net realizable value. IAS 10. What is IAS 10 talking about? What is IAS 10 talking about? Yes? So you've got to thoroughly revise your E1, F1, P1, unless otherwise your journey is going to be very difficult, right? So I'm just giving you some glimpse of it today. So therefore, please start working on it from tomorrow itself, right? Events after reporting date. Very good. So you have two types: adjusting events, non-adjusting events, right? We'll look at it in detail. What is IAS 16? Of course, everyone should know it. Property, plant, and equipment. IAS 36. What is IAS 36? Impairment. Very good. IAS 36 is impairment. Then IFRS 16. What is IFRS 16? What is the standard? The new standard, leases, right? Very important. And IAS 7, basically your statement of cash flows. Nothing much from this, but you've got to thoroughly have a knowledge on these standards, right? These standards are very critical for you to have a knowledge and understanding on, right? Have a knowledge and understanding on. Therefore, start working now itself. So you will have issues. Examiner will give you issues from these standards and ask you, okay, what is the correct treatment? What will be the changes in the financial statements in accordance with IAS 16 if I do the purchase of the machine? What will be the impact on the financial statements if I go for a lease in accordance with IFRS 16? You've got to know your standards. Unless you know to calculate it, you can't interpret it. You can't write how it is done. That's why I said revising and going through the calculations and the theory is critical. That is step number 1 as part of your foundation. So you lay it right, these things will automatically come. Right? So remember it. That's very critical. Then in addition to your standards, you'll have to know your working capital management. How do you select suppliers? Examiner will give you some indicators of working capital of your suppliers. Let's say inventory, debtor days, receivable days, sales, cash balances, bank overdraft balances. He will give you a table. Supplier 1, 2, 3 and the indicators. And you've got to select which supplier will you go for. Which supplier you will go for. You've got to know your working capital management. Then working capital management within fireworks. Are we following an aggressive strategy or are we following a conservative strategy? If it's conservative, what should I do to make it more aggressive? What should I do to make it more aggressive? What are the changes required within the working capital elements to follow a more aggressive working capital strategy. To follow a more aggressive working capital strategy. Simple as that, right? So these are few, I'm just saying, few possible questions examiner will throw at you on the exam. Examiner will throw at you on the exam. So you've got to be prepared. You've got to be prepared, right? So we are a company that designs, manufactures, sells outdoor grills. So we have control over the entire value chain. We design, we manufacture, we sell. We have control over the entire value chain. We are in Europe. $B is the currency. Cells are movable standalone grills located wherever the user wishes in an outdoor setting. So that's the specifications of the product. So we are in Europe. What is the demographic trends of the population of Europe? Right? How many people there? Right? What is the age breakdown? So just to get an indication of our target market, right? So we are going to look at those things in detail when we go through paragraph by paragraph, starting from the first. When we initiate the pre-scene analysis. When we initiate the pre-scene analysis. So it was founded in 84. So we have been in business for almost 28 years. For almost not 28, 38 years. Right? 38 years. Right? So it was started by two individuals. So we are still a private limited company. We have not gone public. On the exam day, examiner might decide to go public. Then you've got to know what are going to be the implications. Positives are you have instant access to funds, better corporate reputation, good image for you, right? Then the cons, the disadvantages are there is a risk of corporate reputation. If anything happens bad, you're going to be affected. Everyone is going to know. Then there are a lot of regulatory requirements. You've got to publish your accounts, a lot of regulatory and compliance requirements which you have to comply by if you list yourselves. So you've got to know the pros and cons of listing as well. Because we are still a private limited company, examiner might be go public on the exam day. We don't know. Right? And we are looks like it's a family business. If there are quarrels within the family, what will happen? Right? What will happen? Have we covered those things? Do we have proper transparency, accountability by adopting proper corporate governance practices? Is it in place? Do we have a balanced board? Do we have a separated MD and a CEO, chairman and a CEO? So we're going to look at all these aspects as we analyze along the pre-scene. Right? So that's just a little bit of glimpse I gave you into the pre-scene analysis, right? Okay, so that's pretty much what we will basically the plan, how our course is going to be structured, the timelines, right? Everything that's pretty much in a nutshell which we wanted to cover in the introductory session. So I believe I have addressed it. So I'm giving you time now. You can ask any question, clarification with regards to the course or whatever we've discussed now before we wind up. Over to you. If you are clear, you can tell me you're clear. If not, you can ask me whatever the questions clarifications you may have. Yeah, go ahead. Good. Everyone, if you could give me a quick comment, whether you are clear or if you have any questions, you can ask it. Good. What about the others? Good. Very good. Right. So you can contact me via this number. So I will be on the Telegram group, which we will form after you register, where we will exchange all the class schedules, all the case related information and things like that. So upon registering, you will be added to that Telegram group. If not, you can maybe contact me via this for any clarifications you may have with regards to the case study. Right. So thank you very much, guys, for coming for the introductory session. I believe you got something out of it. Right. So I believe you will register with us and you saw the outline how it works, the expectation from you guys. So I'm hoping to see you in class on the first. I'm hoping to see you all in class on the first. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be engaging and interactive 6 to 7 weeks ahead, right? So with that in mind, hope to see you in class and wishing you all the best for the season and for the times ahead. Thank you very much. You're welcome. You're welcome.